Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari Gopijana Balaba Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana Yamuna Tira Bharachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tira Bharachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari Gopijana Gopidana Vallabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Gopidana Vallabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Yasodanandana Raja Dhanarandana Jaya Brada Dhanarandana Yasodanandana Raja Dhanarandana Jaya Brada Dhanarandana Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramhangsa Brahvidakacharya Asadhara Satushi Shiman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Smaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Zavani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Grangi Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyatyate Satarane Om Agyana Tivanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utabhara Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Trivyascha Kripa Sindhuvyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 11, King Indra annihilates the demons, text number 48. Balis Choshan Nasa Sprishta Balis Chasha Nasa Sprishta Pratyapanendriya Smriti Parajitopi Nakid Yal Lokatattva Vichakshanaha Balis Choshana Sasprishta Pratyapanendriya Smriti Parajito Pinak Kidlal Yal Lokatattva Vichakshanaha Smriti Parajito Pinak Kidlal Lokatattva Vichakshanaha. Ladies. Balis Chosana Sprishta Pratyapanendriya Smriti Parajito Pinak Kidlal Lokatattva Vichakshanaha. Bali, Maharaj Bali, Cha, also, Oshanasa, by Shukracharya, Sprishtaha, being touched, Pratyapana, was brought back. Indriya Smriti, realization of the actions of the senses and memory. Parajitaha, he was defeated. Api, although, na kidyal, he did not lament. Lokatattva Vichakshana, because he was very experienced in universal affairs. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bali Maharaj was very experienced in universal affairs. When he regained his senses and memory, by the grace of Sukracharya, He could understand everything that had happened. Therefore, although he had been defeated, he did not lament. Purport. It is significant that Bali Maharaj is here and said to be very experienced. Although defeated, he was not at all sorry, for he knew that nothing can take place without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since he was a devotee, he accepted his defeat without lamentation. As stated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhagavad Gita 247, Karmanyeva dikaraste ma paleshu kadachana. Everyone in Krishna consciousness should execute his duty without regard for victory or defeat. One must execute his duty as ordered by Krishna or his representative, the spiritual master. Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. In the first class devotional service, one always abides by the orders and will of Krishna. That's in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled, King Indra annihilates the demons. King Bali Maharaj was very experienced in universal affairs. When he regained his senses and memory by the grace of Sukracharya, he could understand everything that had happened. Therefore, although he had been defeated, he did not lament. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shnivadi Paskyatyade Sadarane. In the sequence of verses in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam Sangaste Shupajayate Sanga Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodha Bhajayate. So, as it says, Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam. Then when one is in ignorance and doesn't see things properly, then one will naturally look around in the material world to find something that will make one happy. In other words, there's nothing in the material world that will make anyone happy permanently. But when one doesn't know the actual source of happiness, because it's our nature to be happy, we're going to have to look for some happiness. And so, since we can't find the Supreme Lord in our heart, because we're not looking there, therefore we'll be forced to look outside to see something and identify it as a possible source of happiness. Since we've been doing that since time immemorial, you think that we've become a little tired of it, but not at all. Maya never makes us tired of being in Maya. Sometimes she does, but then we have no alternative. And besides that, when one is illusion, one forgets. That's one of the symptoms of the progressions of illusion, is we actually forgot what happened before, that it didn't work. But Maya says, this time it's going to work. Because we lose our intelligence to see things properly, and therefore seeing things properly, ultimately, as explains here, to see that everything is coming from Krishna in this material world. Krishna is completely in control of everything. But that doesn't mean that Krishna is responsible for what we have to go through. Krishna may control everything, but he does so in the material world according to the living entity's desires and their activities, what they deserve. So although Krishna is making all the arrangements, but he's making it according to the desires and the merits of the living entities. And in this fairy tale-like land, in this illusory existence, there are so many allurements advertising, come and enjoy, come and enjoy. Or it's probably said, come and suffer. But we're convinced by the illusory energy that this time it's going to be different. Although punak punas charvata charvananam, or we think this is, give it a good try, because we forget all the other times we've tried and it didn't work. So dhyaitam vishayam pumsam, the living entities are always looking for something that's enjoyable. And therefore, although hearing should be the primary methodology of deciding which is good and which is not good, but when we don't hear properly, then we decide by looking at things or smelling them or something. But generally the eyes are very much attracted to beautiful objects, and therefore we judge things as a possible candidate for enjoyment by what it looks like. For instance, in modern food, they make food in such a way, so-called food, by chemical manipulation, genetically modified, in such a way as it looks more attractive. They throw on so many pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, peoplecides, so many sides, that no respectable insect would even get near that food. As I said before, they took a box of shredded wheat, which you may not have here in Europe, but it's a very popular breakfast cereal in America called shredded wheat. You've heard of that before? Wow, just see, deprived childhoods. It's shredded wheat. It's exactly like that. It looks like it's wheat that's shredded and made into kind of like cubes or something, rectangles. And people, they put it on they add milk and a whole lot of cereal because it's really dry. They fed that to the rats to see what the nutritional value of the shredded wheat would be, or any breakfast cereal. And lo and behold, the rats ate the box. And they left the shredded wheat. Because they had more intelligence. They didn't just go by, they heard from the other rats that this cereal is useless. There's more nutrition in the box than in the cereal. So people are judging, they make food, it looks like a tomato, it looks more like a football than a tomato. It's so big, so red, perfectly round, and it tastes like a chemical. It tastes like you're eating plastic filled with chemicals. But people don't care because it looks good. Or maybe some people care. So when we look around, we find something that we think is going to be enjoyable, and since nothing in the material world is actually enjoyable, therefore lust, Maya provides us with lust, the impetus to trying to do something. Otherwise, we think, I'm not going to go for that. It's not worth the effort. But lust impels us. This time it's going to be exciting. This time it's going to be fantastic. And if we try to satisfy lust and it actually gets satisfied, then we become greedy for more. It's not that lust, when we're lusty and we try to satisfy our senses, we think, that's enough. I don't need it any more. I'm retiring. No, lust never lets us retire. It inspires us for more lust, called greed. And when we finally reach the point, there's no actual return for our endeavors to fulfill our lusty desires. When it's no longer possible, then we become frustrated and angry. And whether it's greedy, lusty, or angry, illusion is produced, which has a whole history, a whole story that we believe in, called illusion, where somehow or another we're a hero or a heroine, some drama that's going on, at least going on for us. And we're always the hero or the heroine in every drama that our illusion is giving us. We're a hero, a heroine, even when we're involved in a ghastly rasa, somehow or another, we become the object of everyone's pity. Everyone should pity us. But somehow or another, in some way or another, we want to be the center of attention. We want to be the sun in everyone's eyes. Therefore, people do even abominable things in order to get some attention. You find that sometimes, when no one's paying attention, people put pearls through their tongue. pins through their nose and their eyebrows, their cheeks, their belly buttons, anywhere to get attention. Even we find in India, people put up their arms sometimes in austerity, and they hold it up there for years, and the whole arm withers away. People come by and look, wow, look at his withered arm. Yeah, it's my arm. I did it. Then they throw coins at the person. They say, yeah, I'll hold it there a couple more years. The business is pretty good. So this is called illusion. And the more we fall into illusion, the more we forget reality. Even there was some point in our lives that we experience reality, then we forget it. Just as I explained before, when Daksha was, after he had his head cut off by Lord Shiva's Virabhadra, the demon, and Lord Shiva put his head back, put a head back on Daksha's body, the head of a goat, which shows, by the way, that the actual soul is in the heart, it's not in the head. Otherwise, if the head was cut off and the soul was in the head, then he would have had to put the head on a goat's body. But instead, he put a goat's head on the Daksha's body. And Daksha came back to life. Later on, or in a short period of time, he left his body and came back as Daksha again. And went through austerities, prayed to Krishna. Krishna came riding on the back of Garuda along with all the many demigods. Daksha was in a completely ecstasy, seeing Lord Vishnu being in his association. And Lord Vishnu asked what he wanted. He said, I want unlimited sex life. So he was in ecstasy, experiencing unlimited transcendental pleasure, and then he asked for something completely insignificant compared to that pleasure. Because he forgot. Because he was completely motivated to get something, and therefore, when he got the opportunity to get it, he forgot that he got something better, and he asked for something inferior. So that's Maya. Maya helps us forget, and that takes place in a moment. It's not that we have to wait years and then we forget. We get some realization that now I figured it all out, I know everything. And the next moment we forget what we just realized. What was that I just realized? I should have written it down. Maybe next week I'll remember again. And because we don't have memory, what happened, what reality is, therefore we have to act according to whatever intelligence Krishna is supplying to us at the moment, which may not be very good intelligence if our karma is not pious. And the result is our false ego increases and we become more entangled in the material energy. We lose our intelligence, our real intelligence, our spiritual intelligence, and instead we get lusty intelligence, which influences the soul to acquire a false ego, and therefore it misidentifies itself with its mind and senses for sense gratification. So we may love our false ego, but the problem with the false ego is that it's absorbed in trying to satisfy the mind and the senses. And its intelligence, instead of helping us liberate us from these material misconceptions, serves to entangle us even more in the illusory energy. And therefore, when things go well, we take all the credit. And when things go bad, we blame it on God. We're always the hero or the heroine. And God sometimes is a helper and sometimes he's the villain. But we're always good. For Bali Maharaj here, he's enlightened, and therefore he knows Krishna is in control of everything, and nothing happens without Krishna's sanction. And Krishna is not just arbitrary. He's giving us perfectly exactly what we deserve according to what we desire. Tate nukampam susamikshamano punjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvagvapuvir vidadanamaste jivetat tad mukti sadaya bhak, sadaya sadaya bhak. Jiveta tad mukti sadaya bhak. So the idea is tat te nukampam. We should pray for Krishna's mercy. Now we can't pray for Krishna's mercy if we don't like Krishna. If we're blaming Krishna for everything, then we think, Krishna, I deserve something because you're a mean, no good for nothing. You put me in this difficult situation. I deserve something better. So you're guilty. If you want to become a good person, then take me out of this situation, or else I'm going to go and protest. I'm going to get everyone else in a similar situation that I'm in, and we're all going to go and protest, and ultimately the protest is against Krishna. That why did he arrange things like this? It's Chaturmasya, maybe he was sleeping. Or, as one rabbi said, whose name was Krishna, his last name was Krishna, why do good things happen to bad people? Because God is actually a nice person. But he's the oldest person, and therefore he's become senile. Yes. Which Krishna are you referring to? So he's a nice person, he's become senile. He's trying to hold on to the earth and get things in order, but he has arthritis, so his hand is shaking. Can't hold the earth steady anymore, so there's earthquakes and things going. But don't worry, soon, and for that reason, good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to good people, because he can't get it right. Can't remember who his friends are anymore.
He actually wrote like this?
What's that?
It was actually written like this?
Yeah. How could I make this up? Anyhow, even if I made it up, it would be interesting anyhow. So don't worry, there's one angel, he's being trained up, so soon he's going to take God's place, and things should get better, should go back on track again. Just have to be patient. So people are thinking like that. It's not just this rabbi. Everyone's thinking, how can a good person like me, anything bad happen? Because I'm basically good. Everyone thinks they're good. Whatever they do, they think is good. Because they think they're the supreme, and whatever they do in their own interest is service to the supreme. Logical. Maya will always give us the justification, if we're looking for one, to justify whatever we do in this world. But tattenu kampam, if we want Krishna's mercy, we have to realize what? Bunjana evat tattenu kampam su sa mikshana. Su means properly, actually. It means fully. It means there's a lot of, completely. Like sukha. Ka means space, and su means a lot of space. So when there's a lot of space in the body, everything's kind of flowing. That's called sukha. We're happy. There's no obstructions. And dukkha means bad space. So when there's obstructions, things aren't flowing in the body, then we call that unhappiness, dukkha. So similarly, sumikshamana, sa mikshamana. Iksha, anyone know what iksha means? Means to see. So when we see things properly, with that proper spiritual intelligence, then our mind becomes peaceful. We don't have to speculate what's going on. We can tolerate much more easily when we understand everything has pleasures have a beginning and an end. And so the wise person doesn't delight in them. When we understand things in the broader perspective, we see things completely, then the mind can be pacified. We'll see things in relationship to Krishna and not become so disturbed over temporary losses or temporary gains. Sa with iksha, with intelligence, mana with the mind fixed on Krishna. And what does one see? Bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Bhunjana, whatever we're so-called enjoying, which is actually not really enjoying, it's really suffering, but we take as enjoying. Whatever was bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Vipakam means whatever reactions we're getting is not by accident, it's due to what we've done in the past, and Krishna is giving us some pinprick for those reactions. Well, actually we deserve the electric chair. He's giving us a little taste so that we can reform ourselves. Otherwise, if everything we did, we got a positive affirmation, then we do things sometimes right and usually wrong. So a little bit of pain is good. If you put your hand in the fire and it feels cool, and you watch your hand go up in fire and think, hey, that's pretty good. That would be very unfortunate, wouldn't it? If you put your hand near the fire and you feel the heat and you withdraw it away, that helps you avoid suffering and unpleasant circumstances. So sometimes a little pinprick, it goes a long way to helping us make some advancement. Now everything we look at, everything hear about, everything we taste, we should judge whether or not this is actually auspicious or inauspicious. Otherwise, we put our hand in the fire and we think this is part of a very important ritual, watching my hand burn up. That's very inauspicious. We've gotten the wrong information. When you feel the pain, you should withdraw it. Or they say in the exercise world, no pain, no gain. But that's, what do you gain by pain? Except for more pain usually. So when we understand that whatever we're experiencing is an attempt by Krishna to give us some inspiration, either to continue on with that particular devotional activity or to avoid that materialistic activity, to give it up. Bhunjana evatma kritam ridvagva puvir vidadanamaste. And while we're going through these experiences in the material world, always try to remember to pray to Krishna within the heart, that we may be engaged in his service. No matter what, we're getting something so-called auspicious or inauspicious, the real test will be whether we continuously remember Krishna and his representatives in all circumstances. And therefore, we're always doing what Krishna tells us to do through his representatives, in spite of the fact, or always seeing things the way Krishna would like us to see, according to himself and his representatives, always remaining in Krishna consciousness and devotional service in any circumstance. And then what would Ridbhagva Jiveta San Mukte Sadaya Bhak. Jivante. Jiveta Yo Mukti Sadaya Bhak. So in such, living in such a way, one becomes qualified to go back to the spiritual world. One becomes the inheritor of the spiritual existence. Now, if we think there's some other auspicious activity, something more auspicious than that, then we'll stay in the material world on some planet, either in Brahmaloka or in Naraka-loka. So that's our choice. Either we're going to accept what's coming in our experiences and not become thinking, I'll go to an astrologer and maybe he can correct my life for me. Things are going bad. Let me go to the astrologer to find out when I'm going to become, I'll get my proper name, fame, glory, and opulences that I deserve. When is that coming? No, one should find that the real opulences is in Krishna consciousness and pure devotional service, and therefore when we accept that opulence, then it won't matter what's happening externally. Of course it may matter. We should always be engaged in Krishna's service to the best of our ability, but that gain or loss will not be our loss. If Krishna arranges something where we get auspicious gain or inauspicious loss, or sometimes loss is also inauspicious, is also auspicious, and sometimes gain is inauspicious. But it's being arranged by Krishna. In any case, we do the best we can with whatever intelligence Krishna supplies, and at the same time remain fixed in Krishna consciousness, and therefore get the pleasure from within, rather than looking from the pleasure from without, which Krishna says is always temporary. And that pleasure from within is, by service to Krishna, we'll remember Krishna, and everything we'll be done as a service to Krishna and his devotees, and therefore will always be happy and unattached and free from bondage. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the class. You mentioned this person who wrote this book when bad...
Oh, I don't know if it was a book. He may have just spoken it.
Oh, it wasn't a book.
You were interested in getting the book?
No. I'm just wondering, did no one challenge this fallacious, interpretation of God and how he works? Was there no challenge? He was allowed to get away with it?
I don't know. I never followed up the story. You can follow it up and find out, report back.
No, I'm just blown away that people can just say anything like this and, it gets circulated and people remember and talk about it and all this.
Probably I'm the only one talking about it.
Sorry?
I'm probably the only one talking about it.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
But in Bengal, Prabhupada said there's this proverb, just like a goat can eat anything, so a madman could say anything. It's not the craziest thing I've heard. It's one of the top 10, though.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Besides that, you think about how did Michelangelo, a famous painter, draw a god? On the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican, do you know what God looks like in the painting by Michelangelo?
White beard, white robe, old person.
And he's trying to clutch he's holding out his hand, trying to clutch someone who's... So that's the conception. God is the oldest, so he must have a gray beard and old man. Yes?
Hare Krishna. When I have any kind of material problem, I could be conscious about theory that this is the best for me, this and that, but I cannot relax to feel peaceful in my heart and practice. I just live with stress every day till this problem is resolved. So it is not so easy just to count is that favorable or not favorable. So is that just kind of training also? I mean, question is how I should feel relaxed in myself and practice peacefully spiritual life since I have problem that bothering me every day. That is the question. I don't know.
Well, the more we fix our minds upon Krishna, the more Krishna will take care of that. We can't do it ourselves. We have to rely on Krishna. It's like when you try to add up zeros, they always add up to be zero. It's only when you put a 1 in front of that number that it has some value. So our endeavor without Krishna in this material world will always wind up to be zero. But when we put Krishna there, then it makes a big number. And all activities depend upon me, work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, then you'll pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you act not hearing from me, but through false ego, then you'll be lost. Anything else?
Thank you. If I can ask a question about the class that you gave yesterday, about I would like to repeat your point and to make it clear that I understand clearly. You told Maharaj if we spend some time to read and understand Srimad Bhagavatam, it is natural that we will experience point in daily life, and that we will make it into practice. So point is, it is going on almost naturally. If we read, we will understand, and we will have choice to practice it. Something like that.
Nothing is so spontaneous. We have to read, and then we have to see. The best way of reading is to see that we actually remember what we just read. If we don't remember what we just read, it's very unlikely we're going to remember it in the future. So if we practice, even if we just hear a little bit, but we can remember it, that's helpful. But remembering it is not really the end goal. It's also to be able to see it, to understand it, what we read. Not just remember it like a parrot, but to see it. And then if we can actually see it in the practical way, to the best of our ability, then we could try to apply it. And if we try to apply it, then we'll get feedback whether or not it's actually true, the way I saw it, and then we can adjust it so we can see it better in the future. Or we can go back and study it more thoroughly so we can get a better idea of how things actually are based upon the feedback of our application. But if we don't remember anything that we read, we don't try to see what we read, we don't try to understand what we read, we don't try to apply what we read, we never get any feedback. We just wind up doing the same thing over and over again. Yes?
I have one more question, if you don't mind, Maharaj.
It depends what the question is.
Huh?
Depends what the question is.
Okay. Well, in spiritual life, what is more important, or are they equally important? Individual endeavor and association of devotees.
Well, we should make an individual endeavor to properly associate with the devotees.
So both are equally important.
Yeah, they're both. It's not that you're just sitting there and amongst the devotees and everything. They just shower their blessings and we go back to God. We may get some love from the devotees, but we also have to learn how to give love. So, dadati pratigrinati guyamakiti prishati bunte bojayate chaiva shadvidam pratilakshana. We not only offer gifts in charity, but we also receive charitable gifts. We not only inquire confidentially, but we reveal our mind in confidence. We not only accept prasadam, but we also give prasadam. And we have to do it appropriately according to the different levels that the devotees are on. So it's both.
Thank you.
Is there something else?
Thank you, Maharaj, for the class. Now, my friend was asking about this, how to realize what we have read in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, the other day, I was saying in the lecture to Mukunda Madhava Prabhu, I actually don't believe in some parts which are written in 5th canto. I mean, I try to, but somehow. So, but I wanted to ask, probably nothing what is written in Srimad Bhagavatam is independent of it's not mechanical. We should understand it through bhakti. Even models of universe are part of. So how to realize oceans, Bhumandala, and I mean.
Well, just go for a walk, and when you get to the ocean of Bhumandala, take a dive in, and you can experience it directly. No, most of the things that's just explained in the Bhagavatam, we have little understanding. We don't even know we haven't even experienced we're not this body fully. What to speak of Bhumandala's oceans. We can't even we're living in a body which we identify ourselves as ourselves. So what to speak of understanding things which are way beyond our possibility of experience right now. So we neither accept them blindly nor do we reject them. But it makes much more sense that when there's an intelligent person who's all-powerful, he may be able to do things which are beyond our present experience. So we shouldn't reject it, but we don't have to blindly accept it. Nor does it make any difference. We still have to chant 16 rounds and follow 4 principles, whether there's an ocean of ghee and and salt water and whatever there may be. We still have to chant 16 rounds for four regular principles. And then, whether we don't have to even realize these things. It's not that we have to go to the ocean milk. We have to go back to Godhead. Yeah, we just try to realize Krishna, and Krishna is non-different from his name. And we realize him through this whatever little service we can do here. Krishna will reveal himself. He doesn't say, I'll reveal the ocean milk to you. He'll reveal himself personally. And compared to him, the ocean of milk has no real significance anyhow. Krishna is much more wonderful than an ocean of milk. Okay, we'll stop there. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premananda.